Welcome, everybody. Today we are judging the 2019 AIPP Epsom Victorian Tasmania Professional Photography Awards documentary category, sponsored by Sony. My name is Rocco Ancora, and I'll be chairing the panel chair's position today with Mr. Ian Van der Walt, who'll be joining us a little bit later on. And our scribe today is Katrina Ferguson. I'd like to formally welcome our judges today, and we have on the panel Emily Black, David Simmons, Josh Holko, Bill Buckman, and Matt Palmer. And waiting in the wings, we have Christopher Ian. Who else do we have? Lacey Barrett. And that is it for now, and they'll join the panel at some stage a little bit later on. Okay, so the category is for documentary, press, and birth photography. Judges in this category are asked to consider content, composition, impact, and narrative quality. Images should depict some aspect of the human condition. All images must have been observed, but not fabricated or directed in any way by the photographer. Entrants may provide a caption to assist the judges in assessing the image properly. Entries may be commissioned or self-commissioned. Photographs must be the result of a single exposure of light to either film or digital sensor. Focus stacking, HDR, panoramic, stitching and multiple exposure techniques are prohibited. Polyptychs, diptychs, triptychs and all the other ticks are permitted. The entrant must ensure that there is no attempt to misinterpret reality by manipulating the image content, context or meaning through the image editing or post-production process. Post-production is limited to minor adjustments such as spotting, dust and scratches, dodging and burning, and adjusting tonal and colour values. Elements or areas within the image cannot be removed or covered up, nor may new elements be added. Cropping the image is permitted, as is conversion to black and white. The awards committee reserves the right, after assessment of the original capture files provided, to disqualify images where post-processing is deemed to have exceeded acceptable photojournalistic practices. In the instance of birth photography, written consent must be obtained from each medical facility, such as a hospital or birth centre, and medical support personnel, where they are easily identifiable in an image. Means of identifications include both written consent, such as signs, name tags, medical records and equipment, and visual contact, such as person's face and physical appearance. Wedding photos are eligible for this category as long as they are truly found and not created. Okay, judges, we are ready. There are captions. They may have captions. Yep. And just before we start, we're just going to do a quick judge change. Josh, you've been on there for a while, so I need you to step off. Thank you for your efforts. You want to change him? Yeah, and because we really wanted to start. No offence, Josh. We wanted to start with Christopher Ian, who's also amazing, but obviously not as amazing as you do. But yeah, so well rested. Yeah. So Christopher Ian's going to join us. Can you change him?
Yeah, sure.
So do it now. So documentary category sponsored by Sony. Big thank you to our sponsors for these state awards. Excited? Just waiting for the system to catch up. And could we have our first print, please? Seemingly at rest on winter's frozen sea ice at Monbukta in Svalbard, a large male polar bear casts a watchful eye at the nearby photographer. The bear's powerful back legs are ready to propel it forward in a charge as it hurls from paw in preparation to charge. So that last sentence, the bear's powerful back legs are ready to propel it forward in a charge as it uncurls its front paw in preparation to charge. It scores 81, silver award. Could I just get a little bit of feedback from Bill on this one, please?
I was slightly at odds with the caption on this one. If I hadn't read the caption, I didn't think there was enough information in the picture to make me aware that the polar bear was about to kill the photographer. Who clearly survived to at least enter the print. I think the eye is the key to this, and I acknowledge that. But I think with a documentary image, you're looking probably for a bit more information than we're given with this.
Thank you, Bill. And we'll have the next print, please. The caption, Axel Jude, February 11, 2018. Deceased August. Sage, 11th May, 2019. APGAR 9. Axel Jude, February 11, 2018. Deceased August. Sage, 11 May, 2019. APGAR 9. Just waiting for the scores to come through. The system's a little bit slow, but it's okay. Brilliant scored 79. 79, but Christopher Ian, you're jumping up and down for a reason. You're at 90, and you're challenging. So we'll take your challenge. It's actually an automatic challenge.
To illustrate a tragedy, the left images are of a deceased birth, so they're in black and white. Unbelievably, it appears the same woman has gone through the same process within the 2 years that APRA allows, and she's had a successful birth. If you look at the top images and the bottom images, they are the same. So it's obviously the author's intent that we get into the subject matter of the central images. The successful birth, the husband is fully part of the action. He's in love with his wife for producing their next offspring. In the left image, the medical staff are removing an object that is no longer alive.
Yeah, Christopher, as an automatic challenge, you don't have a right to reply. Anything else you want to add before I hand it over to the other judges for comment?
I just don't know how medical photographers do this. To come back and repeat the process, even though it'll be a success, all the memories must come back. And I know a majority of the medical photographers are women. They must feel even more sensitivity to what they're doing. They're repeating a process. Maybe they are the standard poses like a wedding photographer has, but to actually in your mind go through the processes of creating professional photography with an output as your end game. But those middle two images are the damning statement of this photo. The successful birth with the sensitivity of the husband, the less successful birth with the medical staff performing a medical operation, and the black and white rendition. Whoa.
Thank you, Christopher. I'm going to hear from Matt Palmer. You're on 78, just outside the award range.
Yeah, I saw the story, and I kind of feel like the whole is let down by some of the parts in a way, because that care and attention hasn't been shown to each and every frame in terms of dealing with the tonality, making sure that the backgrounds aren't distracting from the foreground, and like a lot of these technical things. And for me, it's resolving, okay, how important are those technical aspects versus the story that it's telling. But then I think, well, the story that it's telling, the photographer's there to capture it, but what are they contributing to that story with their craft and their skill and their vision? And I think they've done that in terms of presenting the two stories side by side, but I think it's kind of let down by the power of each individual frame.
All right, let's hear from Bill.
Yeah, I've struggled with this one because I think it's one of the most visually confusing presentations I've seen in a very long time. I didn't actually get the narrative at first. I couldn't understand it quite from the caption. Thank you, Christopher, for illuminating the story here. 6 images, I'm not sure we needed all 6 images. I think the upper pair of images kind of take away from the drama that's happening in the rest of it. For me, a more succinct and powerful story would have been the birth and the aftermath of the birth, along with a slightly better worded caption to really bring me into the story. I just find there are way too many things happening here for me, and I've placed it as a professional capture, professional practice, but I'm struggling to go any higher.
All right, let's hear from Emily, because you were in the silver range, strong silver, so let's hear from you.
I must admit, the reason I didn't go higher was just the print quality of and losing some of the detail in some of the components. The story is so strong, though. This is natural labour, and these I get goosebumps. So I can completely, I've been there. The colour, you can see the blood. In the live birth, you're seeing the blood. You're seeing the life. This is symmetry in 2 completely different moments, experiences of birth, and it does. The black and white versus the colour really works for me, and the colours are all not confusing, and it's a powerful image, and I will be coming up because I believe that the story really is there.
David, anything you want to add before we rescore the print?
I've experienced photographing stillbirth and stillbirth children before, and live births. So it's a place I'm familiar with. But I think we have to just address what we see here, and I'm with Bill in that certainly the top 2 images are just more information than we need. The black and white, the colour, that's a great way of telling 2 stories. But then the attention to individual cells, cropping, light, shade. It's still, I'm happy to honour the power of the story, but I'm a long way from a silver distinction.
Okay, judges, taking all those comments on board, I need you all to rescore the print, including yourself, Christopher. It's an automatic challenge, so you need to rescore. Bring our scores 83, silver award. Go to the next print, please. Geraint Thomas and Chris Froome, Team Sky, making their way through the supportive crowd on the slopes of the mythical Alps d'Huez, with a top finish during stage number 12 of the 2019 Tour de France. Absolutely, yeah. Geraint Thomas and Chris Froome, Team Sky, making their way through the supportive crowd on the slopes of the mystical Alps d'Huez with a top finish during stage number 12 of the 2019 Tour de France. Print score 77. And I'll just get a quick comment, from Christopher or, yep.
Almost there. The audience is actually is much more interested in number 3 and 4 cyclists. They're looking beyond that. The flags don't match the nationality of the attendant riders. The mountains are only minor in the photo. They'd be great if they were a little bit more. I know these things are what you get on the day, but if you want to go to those higher categories, you see coincidences that are just pulling you there.
And Bill, just a quick comment as well.
A couple of different thoughts from me, and I agree with him. The festival atmosphere is somewhat cheapened for me by the oversaturation of colour. And just a suggestion for the entrant in the future, the separation between the riders and the figures in the background it's very muddled. There is no separation. A slightly lower angle would have placed the riders against the sky in that gap and made a much more dramatic photograph.
Excellent feedback. Thank you, guys. I'll have the next print, please. No caption provided. Brenner scored 75. If you're happy with that score, I'll accept that score. But I will get a comment from Matt Palmer.
Yeah, I think it's well seen by the photographer, but in terms of documentary and telling a story, I could make up stories, but I would be working on behalf of a photographer. They haven't, it just needs another element to explain why we're looking at this.
Thank you, Matt. We'll have the next print, please. Bullfighting on horses, pronounce Rihon Ao at 18 years old. Rihon Ao at 18 years old. In 2018, Guglielmo Hormozo had his debut in Mexico. Different to standard bullfighting, the horns here are blunted to reduce the risk of severe injuries to horses. Nevertheless, they sometimes end up injured though rarely fatally. So bullfighting on horses, pronounced Rihon Ao at 18 years old. In 2017, Guglielmo Hormozo had his debut in Mexico. Different to standard bullfighting, the horns here are blunted to reduce the risk of severe injuries to horses. Nevertheless, they sometimes end up injured, though rarely fatally. Print scores 81, silver award. Now let's get just a quick comment from Bill on this one.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity, Rocco. For a picture to really succeed in this category, and this has modestly succeeded, but for it to do really, really well, every single part of the picture must work, because essentially you're telling a story here. I absolutely love the action that's happening in the foreground. You've got the contact of the bull's horn with the flank of the horse. You've got the rider leaning over in a very dramatic pose, but there is no engagement whatsoever or separation from the background. The spectators in the background, they could be maybe have just looked up from their phones. There's very little passion going on here. There's very little sense of connection between what's happening. And for good sporting pictures like this to really stand out, you need to separate from that background as well. So I just felt that the communication was really confusing here, visually confusing.
All right, thank you. Great feedback. We'll have the next print, please. The man who read the newspaper with coffee from early Saturday morning in the bagel shop. It was impressive to see in a busy shop, alone, absorbed in something. The man who read the newspaper with coffee from early Saturday morning in the bagel shop. It was impressive to see in a busy shop, alone, absorbed in something. Print scores 73. And Matt, can I get a quick comment from you, please?
Yeah, there's a good observation here, and a start of a good composition, but there's included elements such as that blocky sky on the left-hand side there, also the loss of detail in the newspaper, and also the lack of sharpness in the face that really hold it back from a technical standpoint. If there had been some sort of dramatic news article in the paper that we could see and then create a story out of, that would have been much stronger.
All right, thank you. Great comments. And we'll have the next print, please. A seal mine shaft in the historic gold mining town of Walhalla, Gippsland region. A seal mine shaft in the historic gold mining town of Walhalla, Gippsland region. Print score 68. Matt, you want to say something?
Yeah, the initial impact of this is actually quite strong. I thought for a second that maybe I was looking down a shaft, looking at some sort of aerial formation. But when you get up, it's a little bit, you see the literalness of the scene and also the lack of sharpness, especially on that door, and just the delicate highlights and things that are blowing out. So looking at your technical details, and when you're shooting the scene, just making sure you've got it right in camera.
And David, also you'd like to make a comment.
Just want to suggest to the photographer, we're dealing with rock and weathered steel. We really need to feel the sharpness and the saturation, the weight of rock, the weight of the steel door. Those are the things that then bring emotion to this abandoned mine.
Yep. Thank you. Great comments. Next print, please. Hunter preparing bullets. Hunter preparing bullets. Print score 74. Bill?
Wonderful highlight in the middle of the picture, bringing your eye straight to the subject, but we're told it's a hunter preparing bullets. Where's the hunter for a start? Quite often if you're doing, say he'd been loading loading these shells, quite often working with gunpowder, you get grimy fingers and so forth. It would be wonderful just to have seen a pair of fingers coming in and placing the next bullet in this array here to give us a human connection and complete the story.
All right, thank you. We'll have a judge change. We'd like to bring Lacey Barrett onto the panel so you can join us. David Simmons, you can have a rest. And also we'll have a chair change, so I'll hand it over to Ian Vanderwald, who's our stunt chairperson.
Okay, next print, please. Okay, nearly 36 million children in Ethiopia live in poverty and lack access to basic services. I'll read that again. Nearly 36 million children in Ethiopia live in poverty and lack access to basic services. And the print score's 82. Can I get a comment from Emily, please?
Great connection with the subject there, and the use of the detail and not showing too much, but making that connection and sympathising with that beautiful little subject there.
Thanks, Emily. Yes, Christopher?
We must take it as intentional that the highlight is sitting on the American flag, the wealthiest country in the world. So you've got the stitching that's repairing a sports shirt that none of us would keep, but the highlight's on the American flag to show you some sort of political input.
Thanks for those comments. We'll accept that score, and next print, please. Burning, Chadstone, May 2018. 2 firefighters work at the back door of a commission house to control a fire with high-pressure water. The resulting steam mixes with dark smoke, making it difficult to access the building in search of people who might still be trapped inside. And we have a score of 77. Can I please get a comment from Bill? What could the photographer do to improve this?
Get closer. The real success of pictures like this come from immediacy. Whether it's going to be published in a newspaper, magazine, or reproduced on the evening news, it doesn't really matter. You need to place the viewer there. You need to actually get on the other side of that fence. So the content is here, but the composition is the problem. And the photographer needed somehow, by some means, to get closer and place us in the picture.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bill. Well said. Next print, please. Okay, there's no caption with this one, so it's untitled. So we have an average of 84, so it scores, 74, sorry. We have the opportunity for a challenge. Yeah, okay, we'll accept that, Lacey.
I really am enjoying this perspective, and I was kind of playing with the crop, but I think if we crop it, then we're losing the necessities of the perspective for this image. And this is a gentleman who is working with organs, whether that's animals or people. We don't know that much, but there's these little nuggets that are being left all around this image. And if you read some of the words to the back, it's talking about organs, and then we've got another little paper sign that's talking about taking stuff out on certain days. And then we're left with this filthy tray. And so that's a very strong story. And then his face is just kind of like going through the motions. We're just doing what we need to do very repetitively. So I'd like to see this come up to a silver.
Thanks, Lacey. Well, Matt, you're right at the other end of the scale. Can I get you to say a few words?
Yeah, great observations there, and they help me interpret it a little bit as well. For me, I kind of felt like it was a missed opportunity. You're giving so much real estate to an area that's out of focus, and therefore you're telling us that that's not as important as the person, but then there's kind of just like a lack of the moment that's going on that's telling us about this. If I could see an organ or some sort of surgical equipment or something like that, I think it would be a far stronger story. So I probably could bring it up a bit higher in the professional range, but I don't see it as high of a professional at this point in time.
Right, I'm going to get a couple more comments. I'm going to go to Emily. You were sitting on 76, so you're not that far off.
I put this in the professional practice range because of the perspective, but my eye is moving around the image a little bit and just being really distracted by that highlight of the light, which could have been, if the photographer has gone to the effort to get into that position, just coming up a little or, moving could have corrected that. So that's why I didn't come up to award level.
Okay, Bill, you're sitting on 65, so you're right at the other end.
Indeed, I am. Documentary, this is a documentary category. It is all about information. These pictures must supply information. The information that Emily has pointed out to us is so far in the background as to be inconsequential. The entire bottom half of the picture is devoid of any information whatsoever. We've got this yawning foreground that shows us and tells us nothing. He could be baking bread. He could be getting a pizza oven ready. I just don't know what's happening here. There's no connection between his expression and what we see in the foreground of the picture. So on all of those levels, this picture fails for me.
Okay, Lacey, you have the right to reply.
I was so intrigued as to why the photographer actually chose this perspective and not another perspective. Or walking around or shooting further from above, but there was something about this tray that they wanted us to see, and there's all of the remnants of, I'm assuming, from what an organ would be as depicted from the signs in the back, but I know that you're missing some of the medical aspects and instruments, but we've got a sink in the background. We've got the cleaning materials. We're not going to be having those kinds of cleaning materials in our everyday kitchen. So that's for a heavier duty job. And I feel like there was enough details to tell me more about this bigger picture. And I didn't need those medical instruments. Yeah, there's some technical flaws, but I'd still like to at least get a few more points for this photographer.
All right, if I can get you all to rescore. Lacey, you stay where you are. Current score is 74. So there's been a little bit of movement. The print now scores 75. We'll accept that and we'll move on to the next print. Next print, please. Notoriously shy and elusive, rarely seen and even less rarely photographed. A large and powerful wolverine emerges from the Finland forest on the Russian border as it patrols its territory in late autumn light. The print scores a majority 80. An average of 88. Sorry. Print scores 80. Sorry. Silver award, thank you. Okay, can we just get a comment from Matt, please?
Yeah, it's a beautifully composed and toned photograph. I think the caption actually helped in this instance because my interpretation of a wolverine is quite like a fierce scavenger, whereas this is showing a different side of the animal. For me, I would have gone up into the awards range had the focus been directly on the face rather than the shoulder that we can see. So yeah, that's that.
Thanks. We'll lock that in. And next print, please. Eccentric artist and long-term resident George, encased by the courtyard of the heritage-listed property he has leased and called home for more than 30 years. Coburg, Melbourne, 2019. Eccentric artist and long-term resident George, encased by the courtyard of the heritage-listed property he has leased and called home for more than 30 years. Coburg, Melbourne, 2019. Okay, print scores 74, but we have a challenge. Oh, we have the opportunity for a challenge, rather. Yeah, okay, Emily, you going to take that?
Yep.
Beautiful.
Hang on.
Fire away.
Am I on? Yep. There's a discomfort in this image, and I think it works for it. I want to know why we can't see this artist's face, and I'm going to forgive some of the elements where I would have maybe cropped it a little bit differently. However, I think there's a story here, and I would love to see it come up just a little bit because of that discomfort. We don't have to love the image.
Okay, Bill, you're sitting on 65.
Sorry, I'm appearing to be very harsh here, but I'm hearing the caption, I'm looking at the photograph, and I'm failing to find a connection. I'm not seeing eccentric, I'm not seeing heritage listing, I'm seeing courtyard, and that's about it. I too was extremely hopeful that I would find an eccentric portrait of this eccentric man, and in fact, his camouflage by the plant in the foreground is really quite interesting. It makes it quite interesting, but that is the picture. That is the picture. We don't need the rest of it. It adds absolutely nothing to the story. And if the photographer wanted to reconsider this entry for a subsequent award, I think he or she might do really, really well to recrop it and think about how to write the caption as well.
All right, we might get one more comment from Lacey, who's sitting on 76. She's a bit closer to Emily. Lacey.
Just push the centre button.
This one?
No, the one next to the other two.
This one?
Yeah, one there. Put that one.
With a million buttons, you'll get it right.
That's it.
I was missing the artist part. Like I too really love the mystery that we get because artists tend to be. I know for me, I'm like fanatic with my art and what I create, and I know many other people who feel the same about their art, and so I enjoy the mystery that I'm getting from this. But where's this person's art? Where are his tools? Where are, is this person a sculptor, a painter, a photographer? Yeah, and that's that part of the story that was missing for me. If we could have those elements added into it, I'd definitely come up.
All right, Emily. Your right of reply.
Maybe he's a struggling artist finding his something. I'm just going to leave it at that. We don't have to go further.
All right, the print currently sits on 81. So if you keep your score as it is, Emily, the rest of you, if you'd like to... 74, sorry. If the rest of you would consider the discussion and rescore. Okay, we've gone up 1 point, 75. All right, we might just have a quick judge change. I might swap Josh with Bill. If you'd like to have a break for a minute, Bill, don't go too far away. Push what? Okay, what's happened here? Hang on. How come we've got two? Position two. That's right. Beautiful. Okay, we'll accept that score, and can I have the next print, please? Okay, a local man of Gippsland curiously exploring the almost empty Lake Glenmaggie as a result of drought in the area. Yep, a local man of Gippsland curiously exploring the almost empty Lake Glenmaggie as a result of drought in the area. Okay, the print score is 76. Christopher Ian, you're sitting right on that score. Do you want to say a few words about the print?
The issues here is the lack of drama. It's almost like a commonplace occurrence, which we know drought is, but basically drought infers an emotional response. We're not seeing it in this photo. It's almost like a pleasant image.
Thanks for that, Chris. All right, we'll accept that score. Next print, please. Daily life can be harsh in Termi, a small market town in southwestern Ethiopia. Late in the afternoon, a man lays motionless. No one stops, assists, or checks on him. Okay, print scores 83, fairly consistent scoring there. If I could just get a quick comment perhaps from Josh, you were sitting on 80.
Yeah, strong image, and obviously there's quite a bit of emotion there going on with the figure on the ground and you know, the poverty that surrounds them. I would have been even higher, I think, if the print had been a little bit better controlled. The tonalities, the highlights and the shadows for me really let it down. But it's a strong photograph and well rewarded with the silver.
Thank you. Okay, good words. Next print, please. Okay, Dylan Van Baal, Team Sky, the exhausted new leader of the 2019 Herald Sun Tour, getting all the attention of the photographers after giving his last effort and breath at the top of Arthur's Seat in Victoria. And the print scores 74. Can I get... okay, Matt, can I get a few words from you, please?
Yeah, I've been in this situation, so I think the photographer, given the restrictions, has done a pretty good job of putting themselves in a good position to capture something. The problem is that there's a general lack of sharpness across the whole photograph, and also there's kind of like a bit of a heavy-handed reduction in the highlights here. So just if you're in that situation, it's almost worth underexposing by quite a lot and then bringing up the shadows later on.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, we might just have a quick judge change. If I could get Lacey to step out, please, and if I could get David Simmons to step into her place. Yep, very quickly, yep.
If we look at the classic images of cycling, and a person who decides to take on a certain genre needs to, just like a wedding photographer, investigate the history of it. The real struggle photos of people who have made mountain passes, they've almost got tears in their face. It's the eye contact back to camera. I love having confusion behind them of press trying to push, but if you'd shot it from probably where those gentlemen are, and you have the tears in the eyes and the sweat, then you get much more than the ear and the assistant being the highlight.
Beautiful. Thanks, Christopher. We'll move on and accept that. Next print, please. The speed and agility of wheelchair-bound footballers is emphasised as they overcome adversity to fly for the ball in the inaugural 2018 wheelchair AFL season. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the speed and agility of wheelchair-bound footballers is emphasised as they overcome adversity to fly for the ball in the inaugural 2018 wheelchair AFL season. And the print scores an 80, silver award. Thank you. Can I get David to say a few words about the print?
Okay. I was a little bit tough on it. I'm wanting a fixed point. I'm wanting something that wasn't moving. I'm wanting the ball, I guess. Yes, the energy and the pace is well captured. The colours I'm happy with. I just needed the story to be told from the picture. And at this point, I don't feel it is.
Okay. Thanks, David. Moving on. Next print, please. Okay, an energetic cross-section of Melbourne's diverse and ever-evolving community. Little Collins Street, Melbourne, 2019. And the print scores are 74. Can I get a comment on this one, please, from, we just had David. I might go Josh, 73.
It's an interesting slice of life, and I think the photographer is getting close here. You know, I would encourage them to go back and do this type of street photography and really get in amongst it. They're clearly getting in close, which is great. What's letting it down here, though, is the relationship between the subjects, and there's some confusion going on between them. So the moment was not quite there.
Thanks, Josh. Okay, David, very quickly.
What would really help is Melbourne has fantastic diversity. There could be 100 people in this picture, which would be that energetic cross-section. I really encourage the photographer to go back and explore it more. You know, you could see 10 different races or religions in one moment anywhere on Melbourne's main street. So really get in amongst it and give it a go.
Yep. Okay, no worries. So we'll move on. We'll accept that score. Next print, please. Yeah, okay. Bill, can I get you to jump in for Matt? Do I change it now quickly? If you just hang on for a sec, guys. I know you can go up and look at. You can look at the print. Yeah. Okay, there's no caption provided with this image. The print scores 82, silver award. And David, you didn't quite see it as the others did. Can I get a quick comment from you?
The emotion's certainly there. I think what I wanted some of the mother. I wanted the edge of her face, something. You had that lovely little pearl on her neck, something precious, obviously precious in her arms, but I wanted her face. That's what was missing for me.
Thanks,
to finish
David.
the story.
Okay, we'll accept that. And next print, please. Okay, caption, Hunter holding bullet. The caption, Hunter holding bullet. Okay, if you could enter your scores, please. And the print scores 72. Can I get a comment from Bill, please?
Yes, I'm only jumping in here because of a previous comment that I made. I really wanted to love this picture, and when I got up close to it, I was really disappointed to see the lack of detail. The zone of focus was very, very shallow, and for me, for a picture like this to succeed, it's all about the detail. It's all about the fingerprints filled with gunpowder. It's about the burnished surface of the cartridge. All of those things, and there's also a highlight off the tip of the index finger, which is really distracting. But really, it's about the lack of detail in the picture, which could have been so much more successful, as a lovely piece in a story about this activity, about this preparing to go hunting.
Thanks, Bill. So we'll lock that score in and move on to the next print, please. Come on. Push it again. The caption is Kowloon. Okay, the print score's 74. Can I get a quick comment on this one from David Simmons, please?
Oh, there's no life in it for me. There's, it's just a shot taken maybe as, apologies to the photographer, but as you sort of walk past. I don't feel you've waited for something that, and yes, we know it's Kowloon because you told us it could be any city just about in the world. It could be even some Australian cities. But there's no life. There's nothing that tells you the story of why people live like this and who's living like this and why their washing's hanging out.
Thanks, David. I'm just going to leave that print there. Can I just get a quick judge change? Josh, can I get you to have a break? And Lacey, if you'd like to hop in to Josh's chair. Yeah, if you could, thanks. You're better at it. Beautiful. Okay, next print, please. My cousin Ian loved to take a photo, so I was present. Sorry, I'll start that again. My cousin Ian loved to take a photo, so I was present, a disposable camera for him. During the camping holiday, we used 2 disposable camera and 3 120mm films to take photos of each other. Everyone okay with that caption? Do you want to hear it again, or? Yeah. And the print scores 74. Can I get a quick comment from Christopher, please?
If you're going to utilise the classic format of the Rolly, think about the classic Rolly images where the edges tell something of the story of the subject. Here they're actually distractions and the subject's not even well placed in the square. The square is a stately frame. You need to consider where your image, where your main subject is going to be placed because of that stateliness.
Thanks, Christopher. Good comments for the photographer. Next print, please. From the general public to press photographers and to helicopters, everyone want to get the best spot to catch a glimpse of the actions at the Mer de Bretagne during the stage number 6 to the 2019 Tour de France. And the print score's 80. Silver award. All right, Lacey, you were a little under that score. Can I get a comment from you, please? What could the photographer do to get a few points more out of this?
I really enjoyed the crop, but I might actually play with that just a little bit further, in framing where the helicopters are, just to kind of circle us back into the people and just kind of create that eye movement.
Thanks, Lacey. We'll accept that and move on to the next print. A Hamer tribe woman begs to be whipped by a Mazza to express her devotion to her brother on his coming of age, ceremonial day. Her bloodied back will become scarred and be a sign of pride and will signify that her brother will protect her for life. And we have a score of 80, silver award. And I'll go somewhere middle of the road here for a comment. Christopher Ian, you scored at 81.
The only disappointment here, to me, is for such a dramatic moment, an incredibly dramatic moment, your angle of view is very restive. So she's about to be struck, she's already cut and torn, and yet you've almost given it a landscape restive feel. Surely a lower angle would have dynamically shown you the whip in angle better.
Thank you. And a quick comment from David.
The other thing that was missing for me, a bit like what Ian said, but consider a tighter crop, and I would like to have seen that stick the moment where it came down to make contact, so we really knew what was happening there, and that's been missed. It could be a dance without the caption.
Beautiful. All right, thank you. And next print, please. The ice-hardened expedition class ship MS Origo crashes through the pack ice during heavy overcast and snow conditions at the top of the world during the Arctic winter. At this time of year, the ice should be one solid mass, impenetrable from anything but a full icebreaker. I certainly can. The ice-hardened exhibition class ship MS Origo crashes through the pack ice during heavy overcast and snow conditions at the top of the world during the Arctic winter. At this time of year, the ice should be one solid mass, impenetrable from anything but a full icebreaker. And the print scores an 84. But we have a challenge from Christopher Ian.
From back here, and from certainly the audience perspective, it must look confusing as to what that black void is. It almost looks like stars. It's actually the hardened steel that fronts the ship, and for some reason there's a decorative flag probably of the Argentinian people, by the looks of it anyway. It's just the fact that it is the end of the world. It's a fisheye look. It's the dynamicism of breaking that ice at just the right moment, and the fact that the ice is giving way. It's not like it's giving way easily, so we're not seeing splurge of water we would if we were crashing through the heads of Melbourne, where we've seen just a slight crash because it's resisting. And it is a fantastic point of view. Imagine hanging off the front of the ship to find an angle of view and then captioning it so well.
Right, okay, so we've got Bill on 82. You're in the silver range, but not quite up there with Christopher Ian. Can I get a comment from you?
Oh, no, look, I thought this was very solid professional capture. At first I thought the circular mat was a bit of a gimmick, but that's actually the frame that you get from a circular fisheye. So the photographer's just chosen to accentuate that through her presentation of this. I applaud the novel point of view. It's an often told story being told in a new and different way, which I thought was very good. But apart from that, there's not a great deal of difficulty in this, and I thought that it's comfortably a silver for me for the novel approach, and that's about it.
Okay, well, you're not completely alone. We've got Emily up there at 88. Can I get Emily to say a few words?
The caption itself is referencing global warming, and here we have a spherical globe. So I think that's completely worked for this image. I didn't quite go up to gold, but I'm considering it, simply because of maybe just a few of the little highlights and things like that. Maybe I was being a bit too harsh.
Beautiful. Okay, Christopher, did you want to say something, Lacey?
Yeah, I totally recognize the circular, the fisheye, the round, the earth, the global warming. That was one of the first things that I got, and I actually loved the point of view going into this massive ice. But what I didn't understand, maybe someone can help me out, is this going downwards? It's almost like the sink is shipping. The ship is sinking. So in order for it to break the ice on the water, would it not have to go down? Is it going into? Right. That makes more sense. Okay.
All right, Christopher. Thank you, Lacey. Christopher, you have the right of reply if you want to bring it home. Okay, we've got 282s, an 83, an 88 and a 90.
Because we don't have a walkthrough in the categories at the state level, this has come up on me as a shock. I haven't cited it before. It wasn't shown to me as, an hour ago. And the shock is still rendering with me. It is just a perfectly original image of breaking the ice. And the fact that from here, I actually thought that was the lunar sky, the night sky at the base of the photo. It's actually damage to the ship as it's done this before, and the rust levels indicate that. So to me, it's pictorially beautiful for what is in a documentary section.
Thanks, Christopher. If you could hold your score, the rest of you would consider the comments and rescore for us, please. And the print scores an 88. Silver with distinction, rather. Thank you. All right. We'll have a quick judge change. If I could get Josh to hop in, and I'll get you out. Lacey, Emily, you've been here right from the start. So. Thanks. Good. Okay, next print, please. There's no caption with this image. Seven. Can I get a comment from Bill? You're right down on this one. Can you challenge that? Can she challenge it? Yes, she can. Yep. Yep. Yes, you can. Sorry, Bill. The print scored 77.
I'm really drawn into the light and dark and the symmetry with the central. So you've got your light and your people on the left, and then you've got the darkness on the right, and then you've got this little highlight that is signifying a little glimmer of light and hope on the right, but not a lot, not enough. And then you've got these people that are sitting in between the light and the darkness, and they're on their phones. And their faces are perfectly illuminated by the phone. And you've got this motion in the foreground. And I thought this was a perfectly executed image that made me feel something. And that's the struggle between people and lightness and darkness. And I'd love to see you come up to silver.
Thanks. So Lacey's sitting on 84. Down at 65, we've got Bill. I'll get you to say a few words, please.
That's an awfully big gap. I'm being presented here with a lot of information with no apparent meaning. The top third of the picture contributes absolutely nothing. It's not required. The theme, I suppose, of the of the image is waiting, but I'm waiting for it to have some sort of an impact on me. I'm just seeing a lot of dissociated elements without anything to bring them together.
All right, you're not totally alone, Lacey. David Simmons is up there with you. He's got it in the silver range. Would you like to say a few words, David?
I hear what Bill's saying, and Lacey. What held me, I think, in the end, and just wanted to reward the photographer, the group of three with their phones, the group of three behind them, the three men walking out of the arcade on the other side, and our one completely blurred figure. I agree with Bill, the top third of the picture is superfluous and just distracts, but I thought the photographer was actually seeing some nice little moments. It's not telling a big story, it's just what people do on their phones at the tram, but I wanted to reward that, and hence I took it into the silver range.
Thanks, David. So you have a right of reply, Lacey, if you'd like to finish up.
I think that there's a lot of elements that can be interpreted into each unique judge's how it's open to interpretation, and so I would really encourage you guys to interpret it how you feel best see fit, and hopefully that's at least a couple more points.
All right, Lacey, because of the broad range of scores here, we do need you to rescore, but you have to score exactly what you did before. So you're on 84. If you could punch that in. If the rest of you could consider the discussion and rescore, please. And the print stays at 77. Next print, please. For sale, the unstaged and unseen side of real estate. Yesteryear's bedroom, frozen in time, Hadfield, Melbourne, 2018. And we have a 79. We've got Christopher Ian on 88. Would you like to challenge this? Yes, an obvious yes?
Yes, please. This so speaks to me of the Magnum tradition that has occurred in the 2000s, where colour has now become their means of operation, where they go in and found situations and just record them in the most bland way, but to show you the context that we're now looking at Albania. We're now looking at a deserted house on the west coast of Ireland. I can't believe that people in Australia live like this, and yet to them this is perfectly clean, organised living. This is the bedroom, their most personal space, and this is the way they have it organised. It's just so beautifully recorded. It is an amazing piece of documentary work. If you walk around it, even though the photographer has probably put very little into the input, he has recorded a moment which is just, to me, almost unique.
Okay, so thank you, Christopher. Well, can I get a comment from Josh? You're sitting on 76. So we have a 76, 77, 78, 82 and 88.
It feels a bit stale to me as a scene. And I know that that's the feeling that perhaps the photographer is trying to convey in what we're looking at. But it's just a bit devoid. I don't feel that I'm not connected. I'm struggling to connect all the dots here to see it the way you're seeing it. I've got some issues with print quality, but let's put that aside because it's a bit grungy and gritty in the print, which is okay because I think that enhances what we're looking at. And print quality doesn't need to be perfect for this. I'm enjoying the soft window light that's illuminating the scene, the teddy bear. I need to hear more, Christopher, about how it fits into that genre that you're pigeonholing it into to get it up into that award range, please.
Okay. Bill, you're on 82. Would you like to?
Yes,
add
I'm
to the
far
comments?
more with Christopher on this one. I think this is an eccentrically curated environment that's been beautifully captured by the photographer. If this had been set up, I would be far less interested in it. But because it's a documentary moment, it's a snapshot of time. It's both a snapshot of place and time. And I think that's the real value of this picture. All of this repetition of red, including the rose-colored walls and the garment in the very kitschy portrait on the wall, everything really brings you right back in. All the colors and everything bring you right back into that central figure of the teddy bear on the bed. And it's just this marvelously, I feel like it's a still from a film made by someone who's quite deranged, actually. I think this is a very, very interesting picture.
All right, thank you, Bill. Christopher, if you'd like to have your right of reply.
I probably got the wrong audience, but if you were wedding photographers, you would have come to this in Springvale. You would have come to this in a northern suburb. And because you've come from a middle-class background in most cases, it would be an absolute shock and you're visually assaulted and you'd say, oh my God, she's dressed so immaculately. How do I turn her parents' favourite room into something that's less cluttered and less demanding on the eyes? This is a really beautiful capture, right down to the picture on the wall. This is not symmetrical, it's just perfectly captured. Just imagine if I gave you a caption that said something about a different country, you'd instantly throw in your own things. But the emotional content to me is this exists within our own city and someone's found it. I would have loved to have gone to gold, but it really has to be silver distinction. This to me was the obvious. This is a silver distinction. I was expecting someone to talk me into gold.
So Christopher's currently sitting on 88. If you could hold that score, please, Christopher. And if I could get the rest of you to consider the discussion and rescore the print. 79. No, it's averaging 80, by majority 79. And we've had some shift. It's now in the silver range, 84, silver award. Okay, can I get a judge change, please? Lacey, can I get you to step out for a moment? And can I get Emily in, please? Thank you. Yep.
Even though this is even though this is documentary, it's so easy to do now. Just get your room square. It's kind of disturbing, then a bit distracting that the wall slants and it's not quite square. And it's so easy to do these days, even if you don't do it in the shooting. Let nothing distract from the story you're trying to tell.
Thanks, David. Okay, next print, please. The state of the Australian drought in small towns of far west New South Wales make it considerably harder for all kinds of life on the fringes of the outback. And we have a score of 78. Yep. So we have a challenge from Christopher Ian sitting on 83. So we have scores 73, 76, 77, 82 and 83.
There is a constant whine from all of us that we should go in close and grab the thing that really is making the photo. This person has done that. They've put their viewfinder exactly where it should be, framed it beautifully. It texturally feels like salt and drought and devastation. It really, even right through to the weathered paint on the tube, which might be an irrigation tube, but it doesn't really matter. This is probably a little micro of drought at its finest. And I've only asked for it to be silver because there's probably not enough subject in there to go any higher, but it does need to be silver because someone's walked past something that I would have not seen. They've absolutely seen the edges of a frame.
No worries. Well, we're not far off. We're sitting on 78. We've currently got Bill at the other end of the scale on 73.
Yes, can you just read the caption again, please, Ian?
The state of the Australian drought in small towns of far west New South Wales makes it considerably harder for all kinds of life on the fringes of the outback.
Excellent caption. And I responded to that by recognising the fact that we have animal, vegetable and mineral here, okay? But this is a print competition. I appreciate the symbolism that's being conveyed to me by the picture, but this is a print competition and it's not a good print. Aspects of it have been very poorly handled. The separation of mid-tones, the highlight detail and so forth have really been let down. Yes, it has a bleached out look, but I just feel that the quality of the print is preventing me from scoring any higher than professional practice.
Okay, Josh. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, print quality kept me in professional practice too. I wanted to be in the award range with this. Other than print quality, it did feel a little contrived to me with the skull sitting up there on top of the pipe. But, you know, it could have been found. So I put that aside and made my judgment based on the print quality and the scene before me. And I think the print quality keeps it in that professional practice for me.
All right, Christopher, if you'd like to have your right of reply.
The very narrow range of tones in this, and as even Bill's mentioned, the bleached feel, actually I think are adding to the effect of total devastation. It's almost like a chemical wasteland. It's a drought wasteland. And to me, they're the contributing forces. If you can see so few tones and convey a feeling and a texture, which you can in this photo, your caption's fantastic.
All right, Christopher, if you could hold your score. Actually, that was elected hairstyle, yes. So if you could hold your score, if I could get all of you to rescore for me after considering that discussion. And we've gone up 1 point to 79. So if that was at the National Awards, that would go in for review. But unfortunately, we're not. So we'll move on to the next print. Okay, young male zebra fight on the plains of the Masai Mara, Kenya. I'll read that again. Young male zebra fight on the plains of the Masai Mara, Kenya. If you put your score in, David. Wakey, wakey. Okay, the print score's 79. Emily. Yep. Okay, we've got a challenge from Emily sitting on 84. So we have a score range from, excuse me, from 75, 76, 78, 81 and 84.
We're on a 79. Okay, so there's visual impact. The image turned and wow. There's also a really comical nature to it. How many zebras are there? You know, you're looking at it, it's almost like there's another zebra coming out of the other zebra, like a person that's dressed up. There's a great little story here, and the moment has been captured beautifully. The monochromatic tone of it is just gorgeous. It jumps out of the page. The printing has been handled beautifully. I'd love it love to see it come up to silver.
Okay. All right, we've got Josh sitting on 81. If you'd like to say...
I took it into silver for the moment. It's the print quality actually in the blacks and the whites that kept me from going any higher. The blacks are just flat. And the whites in the grass are blown out, and they're just not there. The print quality just isn't there for me to go higher than a sort of a silver award. I think it is a wonderfully captured moment, and congratulations to the photographer for that, because it's hard to get into position for this sort of action. It lasts a split second, and if you're not ready on the hair trigger, you miss it. So well done to them for that, and hopefully we'll see this in the silver range.
Okay, Bill, print's currently on 79. You're sitting 4 below the average on 75.
Yes, I am, and I scored it very deliberately. Very good professional practice. The moment is fantastic. I do agree wholeheartedly with Josh about the blacks. They could be much blacker and make this an even more graphic image. But we're talking about an award here, and the difference between an award picture and good professional practice is all the elements have to work. And this confusion in the background with the other zebra or two really takes away from that central message. I mean, it's all happening in the clash of the two zebras around their head. Arguably, you could crop straight into that and have a absolute cracker of an image. But the way it is right now, it's good professional practice, but it's not award-worthy.
All right, a quick one from Christopher Ian, who's sitting on 76.
And the animals at the background, not only are they confusing us, but they're actually not relating to the impact of what's going in front. Nothing's more exciting as when two animals square off and the other animals betray the fear and trying to get out of the way. Like a pub fight, they're just trying to clear the air. These animals are just standing there grazing while these two go over each other.
Thanks for that, Christopher. Okay, Emily, your right of reply.
The paper choice could definitely bring it up. I agree with that. But I think there's something kind of beautiful about the fact that here's these, adolescent, young men having this Barney, and the guys at the back there are just like, yeah, whatevs. This is a great little moment that's captured, and I would just love to see it come up just one more point to just give it that little something.
All right, thank you, Emily. If you could hold your score, if I could get the rest of you to enter your new scores, please. Or re-enter your scores, rather. And the print stays on 79. Okay, just shy. Yep, very, very quickly.
Bill's absolutely on the money. If you bring that cropping tool up from the base and have none of the other animals, it becomes a confusion of stripes and it's much more aggressive.
Thanks for that, Christopher Ian. Okay. All right, we'll accept that score and we'll move on. Next print, please. Dad kisses mum during the birth of their second baby. And the print scores 79. Would anyone like to make a comment on that print? So, Josh?
When you go up to the print, it's not from a print perspective, content aside, it's not quite as sharp as I would like, especially given that the descriptor was all about the father, and the father was not sharp in many of the shots. Also, with this type of multiple composites, where you're looking at multiple images, I feel they need to be greater than the sum of their parts, and for me, they weren't. I struggled to come away with a really good feeling, and I did score it silver, so. I think it's a good piece of documentary work, but work on that sharpness.
Thanks, Josh. Very, very quickly, Bill.
We'll make a very quick comment. In a sequence like this, some of the images can play a supporting role, but you need a single, really outstandingly strong image to anchor it, and I'm not finding one in this sequence.
Okay, very quickly, David.
On presentation, the lines dominate. The lines between the images come forward and the images retract. You need thinner key lines so that your images are coming forward to your viewer.
All right, thanks for that, David. I'm just going to have a quick judge change. Christopher's pretty much been on the entire time, so we'll just swap him out with Matt. But if you could stay close by, because we don't have a lot to choose from. Okay, be super quick. No pressure. Yeah. Well, if there's no pressure, he'll be there longer, won't he? All right, so thank you, Katrina. All right, moving forward. Next print, please. Farmer John McCormick with his loyal dog on his property in Tanamba, Gippsland. And the print scores 79. Would someone like to talk about this print? You can't challenge it, but okay. Josh?
Wonderful face. I think we'd all love to work with this guy and photograph him. He's got so much character there. And I scored it silver because I like the connection with the dog and the guy. I think that's quite a nice moment with the farm machinery in the background. So the elements are there to really have a great photograph, but it's not. There's not enough. I need more emotion from that guy. I need you to get into his face and really give me the feeling from him. Bill, sorry.
Josh mentioned the key word here, connection, and everything is placed beautifully in this frame. It's a beautiful composition, but the dog is so eager to be acknowledged by his master. The connection between the man and the dog is what is missing from this picture. A simple turn of the head, a gesture of some sort from the man would have rocketed this right up the scale.
Okay, very quick.
Just a quick suggestion that a photographer explores this as a monochromatic image and really brings out the wear and tear in the farmer's face.
Thank you. I'll just hold that print there for a moment. I'm just going to do another quick judge change. David, you've been on for 46 minutes, so we'll give you a break, but if you can stay close by because I am going to need you. Lacey, would you like to jump back in? All right, thanks, guys. We're all set. Next print, please. Okay. Caption is Kowloon. Quite consistent scoring there. We have a score of 76. Can I get Matt? Thank you.
Yeah, there's some interesting themes running through here. You've obviously got kind of a more slum sort of area, and then in the distance you see this kind of hope of something better in terms of, obviously different quality of accommodation, but it's really missing a human actor or a human element to bring it up.
Thanks, Matt. And we'll accept that score and move on. Next print, please. And the caption here is Hunter scoping the open grass. And the print scores 67. Can I get a comment from someone? How could this photographer improve this image? Matt?
Yeah, I think they've chosen an interesting subject in terms of following this guy around, but bring the camera around to the left, show us a little bit of a contact, maybe see him looking through the scope, or if not that, then whatever he is looking for and capturing that in the photograph.
Thanks, Matt. Good comments. We'll accept that score and next print, please. Okay, hiding away in amongst the branches of a tree, a leopard feeding on his latest kill looks out to check for predators. And the print scores 78. We've got a challenge from Matt, who's sitting on 83. So we currently have a score range from 76, 77, 278s, and Matt on 83.
Yeah, I actually, first of all, it's very well taken. All the exposure to technique is there. The eyes are sharp. You can see the little whiskers and all that kind of stuff. But what adds the extra interest to me is, originally I kind of read this as a tree that it was sitting in, but then it wasn't until later that I saw the deer leg, and I read that as a tree, and then it became the deer leg later in the rib cage, and I can just imagine this deer kind of dangling within the branches and that kind of thing. So, and also it's quite an interesting contact between the photographer and the animal as well. It feels like a very direct contact with the animal, so I rewarded that just a little bit higher than the professional standard. Not asking for anything miraculous, I just think it's that little bit extra than a professional capture, just because of the storytelling through the carcass.
All right, thanks, Matt. Josh, would you like to say a few words?
I hear what you're saying, Matt. I'm not there with you, and there's a number of reasons for that. I do think the leopard has been well exposed. I don't know whether flash was used or not, but it's the eyes are pin sharp, and I enjoyed the catchlight in the eye. I find that green highlight on the left extraordinarily distracting, and I keep getting pulled over to that and sucked into that corner, and that really, I feel, lets the image down. So I think for the photographer, I'd play with the crop a little bit on this. There probably is, I think the photograph can be strengthened by additional cropping of the image. The triangle that's also created in the top right-hand corner by that leg, it's not helping the photograph. I think, again, it's creating a separate image in that corner that's not really contributing to what's going on in the middle.
Okay. Would anyone else like to comment on that print? If not, we'll go back to Matt for his reply.
Yeah, I also agree with everything that you've just said, Josh, and there are things that I saw as well. I don't actually mind the bokeh created by the leaves, and I think that kind of supports the feeling of this, gives depth to the scene, and that this is sitting within a tree. It's not sitting in a plane or something like that. However, I do agree that if the person is listening, either bring down that or crop in tight on the carcass on the left, and you will have a stronger photograph, and I'll be able to argue a bit more strongly as well.
All right, thanks, Matt. If you could sit on your score. Sorry, what did we score? So it's currently sitting on 78. Matt's on 83. Okay, so if Matt, you stay where you are, if the others would rescore. And the print's gone up 1 point to 79. We'll lock that in and move on to the next print, please. Finding comfort in her headscarf, this young girl has to find strength and resilience due to her independence when surrounded by mischievous groups of children and the ongoing challenges of her daily life in southwest Ethiopia. And the print scores 82. And we have a challenge from Matt Palmer, who's sitting on 87. So we've got a 79, two 81s and an 84. So you've got some support there.
Yeah, I think what an emotive photograph. And I can almost hear the photograph as well. It's like I can hear, the boys yelling out stuff in the background and some sort of comment, and I can feel the emotion coming from her as she looks out of frame, and she's deliberately put up against that edge of frame to create some discomfort, and for her looking for a way out of the situation as well as looking for a way out of the photograph. And there's such tension in the hands behind the headscarf. They're not visible to you, the hands, and yet you can get so much emotion and so much structure from those hands even though they aren't visible. And then you've got little supporting elements like the scars on her face speak to a tougher life and a different kind of life. So I feel like it's been rewarded well at silver, but I do think it is a little bit more than silver in terms of the level of communication and emotion that it's giving us. One thing I would say that I'll address up front is that little right-hand corner. That's probably not helping very much, but I look past that. That's just part of the facade of the building behind them. And the photographers captured the moment. They've captured the relationship between the subjects here very well, and it deserves a silver distinction.
Thanks, Matt. So we've got you sitting just outside of the silver range, Lacey, on 79. Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I think what just held me back here is the caption was telling us that she took comfort under her headscarf, but I don't see her facial expression as being comforting. I see it as being afraid or like when you have your hoodie on and you pop your hoodie up and you kind of sit down and you're comfortable and you kind of take like refuge almost, and I just wasn't seeing the description matching with what I was seeing on the image.
Thanks, Lacey. I'm going to just throw it over to Josh. If you'd like to say, you're just out of the silver distinction range on 84.
Yeah, I scored at 84. It's interesting how we interpret the caption differently. For me, it was really important that the caption tied in the back figures with the girl, because that sort of completed the story for me. And the moment it did that, I instantly forgave that dark right corner, and I enjoyed the tension, and I enjoy the fact that she's looking off camera, but even more, I enjoy that the photographer is in her face, but it's not about the photographer for a change. It's actually, she's not looking at camera, which is wonderful. So I scored at 84. I think I'm comfortable with it in a very high silver, very low silver distinction range. Let's see if we can work it a bit and Matt and bring it home for a good award.
Right, so Matt's currently sitting on 87. If you could keep that score, Matt. The rest of you, if you'd like to re-enter a score. Oh, sorry. Not today. No, it's all right. Go on. Sorry, Matt. Go for it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with the caption, and it isn't so much taking comfort, but it is shielding herself using, I'm not sure if it's just a headscarf or a hijab or whatever it's called, in this context, but it is shielding herself. And I don't want to punish a photographer for a poor choice of word in describing that emotion. And especially with Australia being a multicultural country, there's a chance that this is a second language, English is a second language person. Perhaps they've interpreted it and used that word, and we're kind of got more words to play with in that context. So I don't want to hold it back simply because of the caption when the strength is in the photograph and I'm judging the photograph. I'd encourage you to look at your own story in this and not be held back by the story that you've been given. In terms of just a little bit more detail, I do think that the trimmings of what her headscarf do speak to the culture, and the fact that, you know, there is some sort of brutality to the photograph in terms of the texture and the scarring and that kind of thing, but there is also a hidden beauty in terms of the pattern and the creation of the thing that she's protecting herself with.
And it was Josh, guys, Easy Cafe.
Matt.